It's 1599 in Palermo, Sicily, and a friar lifts a lantern. Down the corridor, dozens of people stand fully dressed. None of them are breathing. None of them are alive. They have been dead for 400 years, and every one of them is still wearing their best clothes. The first was a friar named Silvestro of Gubbio. He died in 1599 and would not decay. The monks had buried him in the soil below. A year later, they opened the grave to move him. His body had dried whole, his head still his own. The dry chamber had pulled the water from him. The monks took it as a sign from God, so they began to keep their dead this way. They dug long galleries beneath the friary, and they laid the bodies out to dry. Each corpse rested for a year on terracotta racks. The salts in the rock drew out the moisture. Then the bodies were washed with vinegar, dressed again in the clothes their families chose, and stood upright in the open corridors. Soon, the dead were no longer only monks. The wealthy of Palermo wanted in. A place in the catacomb became a status symbol. Families paid the friars to keep their loved ones here, and paid again, each year, to keep the spot. Miss a payment, and the body was set aside, until the family found the money again. So the dead were held to ransom by the living. Over the centuries, the galleries filled, corridor after corridor of standing bodies. By the end, around 8,000 were kept here. They were sorted by who they had been in life. One hall held only the Capuchin friars, hung along the walls in their rough habits. Another corridor was reserved for the men of the city, lawyers and merchants in their Sunday coats. A separate gallery held the women of Palermo, dressed in the gowns they were married in, bonnets and lace caps still pinned to their heads. There was a corridor only for virgins, their bodies bound with ribbons of faded blue. Priests were laid in their full ceremonial robes, still holding the symbols of their office, and one corridor was kept for the children. This is the hardest hall to walk through. Infants in christening gowns rest in tiny chairs. Some sit together as if posed for a portrait. Brothers and sisters arranged in a row, each one a family that paid to keep them near. A boy reclines in a tiny rocking chair, dressed in a sailor suit that no longer fits. His shoes are buttoned, his collar pressed flat. A girl beside him clutches a wooden doll, her bonnet ribbons knotted neatly under her chin. These were the heirs of merchant families, lost to fever before they could grow up. And one little girl became the most famous of all. Her name was Rosalia Lombardo. She was not even 2 years old. She died of pneumonia in December of 1920. Her father could not bear to let her go, so he found a man who promised the impossible. An embalmer named Alfredo Salafia. Salafia had a secret chemical formula. He injected it through the tiny body once, and the decay simply stopped. A century later, she still looks asleep. Her lashes lie soft against her cheeks. Her hair is tied with a yellow silk ribbon. Her skin has not collapsed or darkened. They call her the Sleeping Beauty of Palermo, and visitors swear they have seen her eyes open. Through the day, her eyelids seem to part, showing a glimpse of the blue beneath. Then, by evening, they appear to close again. For years, no one could explain it. Scientists set a time-lapse camera on her and watched the slow movement across a single day. The answer was the angle of the light. As the sun moves, it changes the shadow, creating the illusion that her eyes open. Her lids were never fully shut in death. The chemistry held her exactly as she fell asleep. For decades, Salafia's formula was lost. He took the recipe to his own grave, until his notes were finally found in 2009. The mixture was startlingly simple: formalin to kill the bacteria of decay, alcohol to dry the tissue from within, glycerin to keep the skin from shriveling, and zinc salts to turn the body to stone. The zinc gave the flesh a near marble firmness. It is why she did not wither like the rest. But Rosalia is only one among thousands. All around her, the older dead tell harder stories. Many of the early bodies dried unevenly, their features pulled tight into wide grimaces, jaws fallen open into silent shapes. hands curled and frozen at their sides. Some lean as if tired of standing so long. Their clothes have outlasted everything else. Bright brocade hanging on bone-thin frames, buttons and buckles still catching the lamplight, boots still laced on feet that cannot walk. Each outfit was a family's last act of love, and their last display of wealth. For the rich dressed their dead to be admired, to stand forever above the common poor. The poor were the ones who could not pay. Their bodies returned to the earth instead. So even in death, the city kept its order. Sicily was poor, ruled by famine and plague. Cholera swept the island again and again, and the catacombs swallowed wave after wave. Bandits and soldiers ended up here too. One reputed brigand stands with a noose mark. A young officer kept his colonel's uniform, sword belt still strapped across his chest. He had died far from any battlefield. Beside him, a Spanish doctor in his coat, who tended the dying through the last plague. Their stories survive only in the friars' books. Names, dates, and the price each family paid. Pages that smell of dust and old candle smoke. The last body was placed here in the 1920s. After Rosalia, the practice was finally stopped. The galleries were sealed against the air, but the city had grown around the dead. Cars now rumble over the silent corridors. Below, 8,000 still hold their poses. Damp and time keep eating at them slowly. Conservators now fight to hold the decay. They control the air to a careful balance and brace the bodies that begin to slump. Earthquakes have cracked the old vaults overhead. Floods have crept up through the lower passages. Some niches have crumbled into rubble and bone, and families of the very old ones are long gone. No one left alive remembers most of these names. They are anonymous now, dressed but unknown. Strangers stop and study each tilted head, wondering what voice once came from that throat, what hands once held the children now beside them. The catacomb keeps it all and tells nothing. Yet the corridors are open to visitors today. You walk past the friars first, then the men, the women, the priests. Then you reach the children's gallery, and at the very end, a quiet alcove, where a small glass coffin waits in the calm. Rosalia, almost 2, asleep for a century, her ribbon still yellow, her curls still soft, her eyes still seeming to open with the light. Around her, 8,000 who paid to stay, dressed for a visit that never ends. Standing in the clothes they died believing in, held up by family money long since spent. The Capuchin Catacombs are open right now. In the heart of Palermo, beneath a working city, you can buy a ticket and walk among them. 8,000 who refused to disappear. Each one dressed for a guest who finally arrived. Each one waiting in the cool, damp dark. And at the far end, the little girl still sleeps, her eyes opening softly as the daylight turns. It's 1599 in Palermo, and the dead still stand.